All right, and coming down finally to the main event at probably 3 a.m. Eastern time. No, probably not that late. Probably 1 a.m. Hopefully you guys are still awake. Hopefully all the other main event fights have been entertaining. I don't see a world where they won't be. But we'll have Alex Pereira up into light heavyweight facing, for the second time, facing Jiri Prochazka, coming off of that devastating shoulder injury after the Glover Teixeira fight. Where he was able to notch that victory in the 5th round via rear naked choke, surviving really because he was not going to win that card on the scorecards, or that fight on the scorecards. And so now these two get the chance to fight it out for a title after Andy's guy Jamal Hill tore his Achilles. Is that right? Achilles?
It was an Achilles, and it was playing basketball before one of the pay-per-view events. I think it was before the June one. For like the big fight week one.
See, life happens. I'm not of the mindset that you should just be in a little bubble until the fight. Shit happens. John Jones just tore his pec, just wrestling, just training. It happens. It sucks. Hopefully he's able to get back to where he was as far as quality goes in the octagon, because his fight with Glover himself was a fantastic one where he was just dominant. But that's not who we're talking about today. We're talking about Prochazka and Alex Pereira. Andy, I'll throw it over to you at the beginning here. What do you see in this fight? Where is the edge?
Yeah, I mean, you touched on it, but Prochazka's been on such a weird journey. He's had 3 UFC fights and was immediately thrown into the fire here with the promotion, where he got a knockout win over Ozdemir. He got that spinning elbow knockout over Dominic Reyes, which is an electric highlight. They're going to play that highlight like 20 times, so I hope Reyes is not watching the card. And then he got the last-minute sub over Glover, which – that was such a weird fight. Like, Teixeira looked like he was about to potentially win all 5 rounds, at least win 3 or 4. And then at the end, Jiri just shows up on top and chokes him out with 30 seconds left in the fight. It was one of the more insane things I've ever seen for a title victory. But the Jiri injury canceled the fight versus Glover. Then Dana White pulls in Ankalaev, and Jan Blachowicz just throws Glover to the side. Then you've got those guys drawing, and immediately as the press conference is happening after that boring ass fight between the two, you've got Glover and Jamal going at it for the belt. Jiri just still sitting on the sidelines, like nothing announced for him. He's just vacated, nothing going on besides it's the worst shoulder injury you've ever seen. And then once Jamal goes down, this fight kind of materialized like a month or 2 after that, where these guys were announced to be on the Madison Square Garden card. And I think for Jamal, it was always, who is it going to be? Is it going to be Jiri, or is it going to be Alex? Knowing Alex probably had to get 1 win at light heavyweight before he would get the title shot against Jamal. I'll get into the fight a little bit though, because I think like the only thing I'll say last about the history is if Alex wins, I just hope he doesn't get hurt, because that is the curse right now with the belt, is that you are going to get hurt afterwards. I think Jiri leaves himself a little too open, to be honest with you, where I think we've seen Alex kind of take advantage of poor defense on the feet. Even if you let your guard down for a second, he is going to take advantage of that. We saw that in the Izzy fight where Izzy dominated him, but in the first bout, that is, and Izzy looked really solid. And then right at the end, Alex saw the chink in his armor and immediately took advantage of it and went through. The time off also worries me a bit here, where I know it's been a year and a half, it's a year and 5 months on the dot that he fought last. I just think Alex is a lot better defensively in boxing and striking than Ozdemir and Reyes were for Jiri. And those were Jiri's 2 wins in 2020 and 2021. So in my opinion, like if Jiri didn't pull off that sub, he was going to lose to Glover in 2022. Alex also has Glover in his camp and also in his corner. And he's fought Jiri once and was training to do it again in December. That obviously didn't pan out. But my point there is Alex has been there with Glover to train for these Jiri fights. Like he's been honestly training for Jiri for like 2 years now, because he's been helping Glover prep, and now Glover's helping him prep. There's a bit of a revenge factor to this too. And I don't really put a lot of weight into that, but the actual preparation part, I do put a lot of weight in. So what do you see in this one? And from a more technical side, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, from my side about Jiri is he does leave himself to be hit. He has a lot of crazy strikes, a lot of unorthodox strikes, spinning strikes, elbows, less traditional, where Alex is a lot more of that traditional kickboxing style, hence his background. But Yuri's had an interesting UFC run, and I want to touch a little bit more on that Volkan and Reyes fight, in that it almost feels like the UFC gave him the most hittable top tier guys within the light heavyweight division. What I mean by that, Uzdemir is like a top, like he's like 15-ish, fringe rankings, probably top 10-ish in general, but has shown the propensity to get knocked out in his career. Well, he knocked him out in the second round with an overhand right. Dominic Reyes in that fight, same deal. Over the latter stages of Reyes' career, he's been super hittable. Now 12-4, losing his last 4 fights. Lost to Blachowicz by knockout before that Jiri fight. He's facing guys, and it's almost like they built him up to make that title run, and then he was losing to Glover in that fight, and then had a Hail Mary submission that no one could have seen coming. But even in that Dominic Reyes fight where he did knock him out, he was getting pieced up too. He was bloodied up. I mean, he was fucked up in that fight. And so Alex Pereira is the most defensively sound of the fighters that he's fought, other than Glover, in my eyes. And Alex has, to your point, been fighting with Glover as well. I think that Alex is going to take what Jiri gives him. And it's so long as he can handle the pressure that Yuri's probably going to put on him early in this fight. I think that as the fight grows, Jiri will get increasingly more tired, and Alex will have more and more success. Not that Alex's output and his volume is that high, but when he picks his shots, he's very accurate. And I think that Yuri's going to end up getting caught by one of those. So I've got Alex Pereira in the matchup. He was a heavier favorite, up to like minus 150. He's come down a good bit. He actually came down all the way to, I believe, minus 110 or about a pick 'em. And now he's back up to minus 130. So it's an interesting fight. Clearly, the betting odds lean ever so slightly towards Pereira, but I mean, it should be a phenomenal fight. It wouldn't shock me at all if Jiri was to win it, but I'm going to lock in Pereira for 1 unit at minus 130.
And as you were talking, the odds on DraftKings went to minus 120. So I am going to also go with Alex at minus 120 on DraftKings. I'm going with the 1.5 units. I actually feel really good about this one, similar to how I felt with the Andrade fight. I know that sounds a little bit suspect that 2 of my biggest plays are the final 3 fights, but that's just how it shook out this time. I don't see Alex using a ground game here necessarily, even though that's what worked really nicely for Glover, where he was able to, like, you can utilize that on Jiri, and I think that you can get a victory because Alex doesn't really have a huge ground game. I mean, his background is kickboxing. I do think that he could surprise. Maybe he has something that he's going to pull out and surprise us with, but that's not necessarily something you can project or something that you can put your money on and bank on and be like, yeah, he's going to do it, because he's never really done that or shown us it. What I can guarantee is that I expect this fight to be much more prepared and much more, like you said, he's going to come to him on the feet. And I do know that Alex is much more comfortable in this weight class, where he's not making this dramatic weight cut. He's fighting a lot healthier, and he's going to look a lot more capable. Yuri's time off is going to mean that he's going to have some rust to start, in my opinion. And I mean, there's a chance that he surprises us and puts Alex's lights out. It was literally just in April that happened to Alex with Izzy. But I'm going to go with Alex here because I think he's got a much stronger striking game when it comes to how calculated he's going to be, how prepared he's going to be, and just the overall show of it all. I love Alex Pereira, man. I really do. So Rick and I both go with Poetan here with the bet of minus 120 on the money line. Rick's going with a unit. I'm going with 1.5 units on the money line. And once again, we are going to bring in our good friend and producer, Mr. Ben himself, to give his 2 cents on the fight, as this could be an all-time electric one here at MSG.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I can't believe God of War is not Dalby's nickname or Prochazka's nickname, right? Because they fit the description. But you can't make up a story like this fight. I mean, Pereira, Prochazka. I'm going to say Pereira because I grew up with somebody whose last name was Pereira and was from Brazil, and they always pronounce it Pereira. So I'm just going to go with that. It's just not something you could possibly script, right? I mean, you got Alex Pereira. He's comfortably in the light heavyweight division now, right? His striking's not in question. He's legitimate in any other fight, and I'm glad you guys took what you did for picks. In any other fight, I like his odds, period. His kicks are dangerous. If he's able to exploit them, the fight gets really interesting after 7-8 minutes, right? You can only beat on a leg so much before that stump gives out. He looks like the prototypical Brazilian beast, right? Like the Mauricio Shogun Rua kind of fighter, right? He's tumbled through Blachowicz. It proves he deserves a real shot, right? Not to mention Sean Strickland, right? The Teixeira connection, it's so helpful for sure. The guy knows how to fight Prochazka. I mean, Pereira debuted at Madison Square Garden. He won a belt at Madison Square Garden. He certainly wants to win a second belt at Madison Square Garden. But Jiri Prochazka, man, the guy's an enigma. He's weird in like the best possible ways. He's obsessive in the best possible ways. He's the type of person you would imagine has a constant dialogue in their head that he could just get better at something, right? He's that self-flagellating person that whips himself on the back, and he's a freak. He's just so committed, right? Like this is his lifestyle. You can't ever really tell if he's trolling you because he thinks you're pathetic or if he's just that much better than you, right? Like he's just unreal. He doesn't want to get hit. That's why he dances around like a ghost, right? But he can take a hit. He literally earned his belt taking hits, right? His chin is unreal for this weight class. His fight, his focus is super unrelenting, right? I don't care how good Pereira is. I don't care how badly he injured his shoulder. I don't care what Dana White says. He's a marketing guy. Jiri Prochazka is not a fighter that you can count out of any fight, period. He does get hit. Sometimes it's almost like he thrives on tasting blood in his mouth, right? So, yeah, anything can happen. It's UFC, right? But he smells blood better than hammerheads, man. He hits harder than any light heavyweight in history if you look at it pound for pound, right? He's hungry. He's confident. He's going to win this fight, period. And because it's a pick'em, I'll take the Jiri money line. It's basically a pick'em. In fact, I can't even believe it's probably slightly plus money right now. I'll also take this fight to last less than 2.5 rounds, which is a pick you have to buy up. But just to hedge my bet, and currently that's not a really good value. I think it's at like 185, negative 185 or something like that. It's probably still worth it to me. And I'll go a unit on either of those or probably both. With the caveat, Andy, since you had to go 1.5 units, that some men's units are bigger than others. So I'll stick with just the unit each play here. Don't discount Prochazka, really. Don't discount his length of history in the UFC. He's the real deal, period. It may even be the fight of the year for me. So, and for the fans out there, it's a really good time to be a light heavyweight fan. I mean, with all the tumult that's happened in the last year or two with the 205-pound weight class, man, as these guys get healthy, it's going to be stacked for real in 2024.
Yeah, I'm so fired up for light heavyweight division as a whole. It's such a revival from what it was even 2 years ago. Just looking at it, it was such a tough void to fill once John Jones departed from the division. But I got you at odds at plus 110 on Prochazka on FanDuel, so you got a little plus money there, and then minus 177 on your under 2.5. So I also
he's going to be so fresh. You guys called it rust. I call it trust, man. That guy's been out long enough to get ready. So we'll see how it plays out. I'm glad you both picked the opposite pick as me because now we're really going to know what's up.
Dude, we need you to come on for more of these. Yeah, we need you to come on for more of these main events. But that monologue got me amped up for Jiri, and I'm on out.
You know what?
That got me like fucking ready to run through a wall with Yuri's like ponytail looking
for sure
thing at the top of his head.
I'm not gonna lie though, in full transparency, as you guys were talking to Pereira at the start, I almost changed my mind, and then I was like, no, this guy's too committed. He's a psycho.
He is a psycho. He is a psycho.
I'm so amped for this fight. This is easily my fight of the year. I mean, I'm looking forward to that December card, but man, this fight is going to be golden.
I agree. This should be the best fight, arguably the best card of the year as far as matchups go. Entertainment wise, I think that this is up there. And names are one thing, but this fight's got young prospects as well as established veterans still trying to make a name for themselves late in the card. So a fantastic pay-per-view. We'll be back next week as well with UFC.
Just a fight night.
Yeah, it's just a fight. I know it's not a pay-per-view, but we'll be back with that card as well, covering it as well, getting the podcast out to you guys on YouTube, all socials, Spotify, Apple, everything else. But should be a good card. We're excited for it. Thank you guys for sticking through if you've gotten this far, and we will see you guys next time.
Cheers.
Cheers, everybody.